on the brink here in game one. Booker taking on Westbrook, and a block by Westbrook, and he throws it off of Booker. It is Clipper ball.
Welcome to a Valley Sports Plug Phoenix Suns playoff recap for round one, game one. I'm Chris Patrick, and with me is my man, Michael Benjamin, here to break it all down for you. So let's go ahead and see how game one broke down. The Phoenix Suns taking on the Los Angeles Clippers here at home, and it was a slow start. At the end of the first, it was 30-18, the Clippers clearly in control. The Suns would fight back, scoring 36 points in the second, making it 54-59 at halftime. The Suns continued their momentum, and it was tied up 81-81 at the end of the third quarter, including a 15-0 run by the Suns. But in the end, the Clippers would come away with this game one victory, 115-110 over our Phoenix Suns, stealing home court advantage right from under us. So let's pass it over to Mike for an in-depth look at this first game.
Everybody was ready in the Valley. We were chomping at the bit to get this one started. Already some great playoff basketball all around the NBA to start. But unfortunately for the Phoenix Suns, it seemed like the residual stench from Game 7 of the Western Conference semis last year was still in the air as they started off super slow. KD was 0-5 to start, and the Suns found themselves down 12 after the first. The Clippers used a 13-0 run. The back end of the first quarter, rolling into the second. And the Suns were just struggling to get stops. They were trading buckets, and it helped keep that Clippers lead in the double digits. But the Suns did use their run and were able to cut a 16-point lead to 5 at halftime with some stops and more aggressive play, to be honest with you. Kevin Durant ended with 9 free throws in the first half. And the tough situation, which we're going to touch on tonight as well, was only 2 bench points at halftime. It just seemed like there was some laziness at times and the inability to control the basketball at moments. The Suns went into the second half. We're still struggling with second chance opportunities for the Clippers. They finally took a lead with 6:30 left in the third, 70-68, which was actually their first lead since it was 10-8 early in the game. Like Chris said, that 15-0 run gave the Suns a 9-point lead. But then once again, we had some carelessness to end the third once the bench unit came in of Landell, Wainwright, Okogie, and Shamet, who were alongside the floor with Booker. So it was tied after the third. We went to the fourth, and it was back and forth. And then, of course, it's how you finish. In the last 3 minutes, 3 straight threes from just losing guys on the defensive end, 2 to Kawhi Leonard and 1 to Eric Gordon. And the Clippers were up 6, 109-103 with about a minute 33 left. And the Suns scored 5 straight and with about a minute left. The Clippers had multiple offensive rebounds, kept resetting the shot clock, and Russell Westbrook found himself on the free throw line with 2 clutch ones. The Suns struggled to get the ball in at the end. Then when they finally did, they gave it to Booker. He isolated, was blocked, and that was the end of this one to start the series. Tough one, and I know we got some things to talk about, Chris. So we're looking at 3 different components or 3 keys of the game to why the Suns fell short in this one and now are finding themselves in a hole. And like you said, the loss of home court advantage. So I want to pass it over to you so you can dive into our first key of the game.
For me, one of the keys has to be the poor performance of our bench unit. Like you highlighted there, just 2 points from our bench at halftime. They finished the game with just 10 points compared to the Clippers' 33. It really doesn't help when you find 4 of our 5 starters in foul trouble with 4 or more fouls by the end of the game. I think Landry Shamet played the most minutes, 24 minutes out of the bench, but it was a real quiet 24 minutes, just 2 of 5 from the field. Jock Landale couldn't get anything to drop if his life depended on it. Bismack Biyombo was fumbling, not able to hold on to the ball. I know in the playoffs, you're going to run your primary unit more. These guys are going to get more minutes, but the bench has to be there to be able to supplement it. And I don't know if Monty's going to have this 10, 11-man rotation going forward throughout the playoffs, but clearly we needed a better bench performance tonight, in my opinion.
And I don't think you can. I almost feel bad for bringing it up on our last episode of Pass the Outlet, where I was wondering if we were going to be stretching out our rotations and possibly seeing 11-man rotation. It didn't work tonight. Obviously, We're still working the kinks out. We're still trying to find what's going on here. But man, it's just tough to do when you're trying to start and get off on the right foot for any kind of playoff series. One thing I have to say about bringing Torrey Craig into the starting lineup, who had a good game, 22 points, 4 rebounds, was okay on the defensive end. I mean, you look at Kawhi Leonard, who he was matched up with primarily, who has 38 points, just kind of did whatever he wanted to, but that's a different discussion. The one question that I have is, how does Josh Okogie all of a sudden find himself completely fleshed out of the rotation with only 7 minutes played? He's a guy who could step into that role like a Russell Westbrook, give you that hustle, those second chance opportunities, play some great defense. I know they're trying to match up for size, which they were saying towards the second half after the trade deadline. But the truth is, Monty didn't do that. Josh Okogie was starting the entire end of this season. And then to go into the playoffs and completely cut him out of the rotation is just a head scratcher. And some of these other guys, Landry Shamet, like you said, 24 minutes, just basically running around and not really giving much else. And Jock Landale, if you want to have any kind of semblance in this rotation, you got to hit your bunnies and you got to fight through and take some of that contact and finish those at the rim. To get outscored 33-10 from the bench is always tough, especially when the Clippers only play 4 guys off their bench. But Chris, what else are we looking at? What's our next key of the game?
For me, man, it's got to be the defense. It started early and the problems persisted late into the game, whether it was leaving Eric Gordon wide open to having Kevin Durant guarding Russell Westbrook early. A lot of odd decisions. And if you're going to double Kawhi. But like you highlighted there, he still got 38 points with the extra pressure we were putting on him, which only left other players open on the perimeter. We saw the Clippers shoot a lot of 3-pointers in the game, and luckily they weren't knocking down as much as I think they could have. But if they're going to continue to shoot at that clip, no pun intended, then it's going to be trouble for us on down the road. We need to take a deep breath, like you like to say, Mike, not too high, not too low. But the defense has to improve, and there has to be adjustments for game 2 and going forward.
More communication. I mean, it's all about how you start and how you finish. I think to start this game, it was more so the Suns were a little bit flat on the offensive end. All of our shots were short, but we were still losing guys. And then in the last 3 minutes of the game, to have three-pointers in a row off of just horrible transition defense and guys absolutely miscommunicating and just forgetting that Kawhi Leonard is out on the top end. It's just odd to make when you're trying to close out a game down the stretch. Chris, what's our final key of the game? What else were we looking at from this Suns loss?
And I think the last thing that really brought this team down and the reason we lost this game 1 is the rebounding. You just look at the numbers and the story speaks for itself. The Clippers had 15 offensive boards to the Suns 6. You don't have to be a mathematician to figure out that that's more than twice as many offensive rebounds that the Clippers got. Not to mention DeAndre Ayton only having 8 rebounds on the game, which makes him the 3rd leading rebounder for the Suns. Not what you want to see for your center. I should highlight our point guard, Chris Paul, had 11 rebounds. Just absolutely embarrassing. Aside from the rebounding, DeAndre Ayton looked lost, looked like he didn't know what to do. And really, if you watch the last 3-5 minutes of that game, he gave the Clippers so many chances at a crucial impasse where he was punching the ball out of bounds, not able to get 2 hands on it and secure the damn rebound.
And it's a tough thing to see, specifically for me as a big man, because it seems like when that shot goes up, DeAndre Ayton isn't working fast enough to find that positioning. He looks, and by the time he finally turns to find his man, he's already the one who's being set into that position. You know what I'm talking about? And we can look at that literal last possession for the Clippers where they had 2 or 3 different offensive rebounds because he's not set. He's not sealing. He's not jumping up and controlling the ball. And the Clippers just wanted it more down the stretch at the end of the day. Guys were fighting for that ball. It eventually led to those 2 free throws from Russell Westbrook because that was all want and desire instead of DeAndre Ayton working to finish that off. It's not all on him, but it's just some more head scratchers that we continue to have. And it's just a tough look to start a game 1 at home have the opportunity to seal it off at the end and fall flat and find ourselves down to start a series. But like we always say, it's 7-game series. There's a lot to play, and I'm very confident the Suns will figure out what adjustments they need to make. But Chris, with that being said, what are your final thoughts from this game 1 loss to the Los Angeles Clippers?
Man, I just think that we almost needed this loss. If you really think about it, the Suns were riding a high, thinking that they would come into this playoffs and really dominate, having everyone healthy, having Kevin Durant on the roster, and to drop this game 1, I hope they take it seriously and see that they have to have that fight and desire like the Clippers came out with tonight. You even saw it on one of those last plays of the game. Russell Westbrook jumping out of bounds on the baseline, saving it and throwing it off Devin Booker's kneecaps. Devin Booker can complain all he wants about wanting a foul call, but there was no foul there. Russell Westbrook played good defense, got position, and made a great basketball play. I know everyone hates to be on the other side of that play when you see the ball flying out of bounds and a guy throws it off your kneecaps. But honestly, we just need to play harder, play smarter, and the defense has to improve.
I think you summed it up perfectly. The Clippers really showed that they had the heart and will. I mean, Russell Westbrook is out there pulling back his shirt at the end of the game, pointing to it because they left it all out there. And I am very excited for this series to continue. It's going to be a dogfight. It's going to be a fun one. But if the Suns want to pull this one out, they're going to have to leave it all out on the table.
Absolutely. The Suns are really going to have to show up and show that they want this series and to make it in this playoff stretch. And we'll just have to see. Only time will tell. Game 2 will be Tuesday, April 18th, back in Phoenix, and we will keep you updated every step of the way throughout the playoffs. For Michael Benjamin, I'm Chris Patrick, and we'll see you next time. Peace.